Okay, good evening. Welcome to the RSU 5 Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021, and we are here in the Freeport High School cafeteria. Welcome to the final meeting of the school year. Actually, the final 2 school years, because we didn't really have a break last year, so very exciting. We have a few folks missing this evening. Jen Galetta is out of town. Angela, we're not sure. We're hoping she might join us. Our student rep, I'm not sure if he's coming. I'm looking at Ray. Ray's not looking at me, so he's not. Okay. All right. Dropping like flies around here. Okay, so we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the minutes from the May 26, 2021 meeting as presented, barring any errors or omissions? Maura and Valley, thank you for that. We don't have anybody on Zoom, so we can just do a hand vote this evening. That should help move things along. All those in favor? Great, none opposed. Adjustments to the agenda?
We have one to add 15B to hire a math teacher at Freeport High School.
All right, so then we will move right into the good news and recognition and the bittersweet portion of our ceremony today.
So we're very excited to recognize our retirees tonight. And we have the administrators that are here to kind of speak on their behalf, and then we will present them with the gift. And combined, these 6 individuals have given 148 years of service to educating our students. So thank you so much. So I'm going to ask Principal Pidden to come up first to recognize Beth Daniels. Okay, so,
You clearly didn't tell him he was first.
I did not. I'm sorry. Are you ready, or do you want me to?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, all right.
I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but I'll go for it.
Okay, you are recognizing Beth Daniels.
Okay, great. Sorry about the sudden entrance there. Beth was unable to be here this evening, but I'm honored to speak on her behalf. Beth worked for Durham Elementary School and Durham Community School for 32 years, I believe, and started out in the intermediate grades as a teacher and then moved into middle school. She was a long time 6th grade math and science teacher, and then in more recent years has been a math specialist providing RTI intervention for students in grades K through 6. You know, throughout this time, I think one of the things that stands out with Beth is that she's been continuing learner and modeling her learning right up until this past year. Just last summer, she graduated from a math specialist program up at UMaine Farmington and was always looking to apply her new learning into her instructional practices. And I think another piece that, well, 2 other pieces that I really think need to be sort of also recognized. Beth also supported her colleagues. She was a long-time building rep for the association, but also a long-time member on the recertification committee and helped new teachers get started with their certification, as well as supporting ongoing recertification plans for veteran teachers. And I think lastly, the piece I'd like to make sure is acknowledged is one of the areas where Beth really contributed a lot was in running the Outing Club, which was a monthly, which we hope to get back to, but a monthly opportunity for kids to go and do some different activity. It might be ice skating or bike riding or sometimes tubing or skiing or kayaking, just different activities that she would coordinate. And it was really clear how much that meant to such a different group of students. So it wasn't a particular sports team or a music group or a drama group. It was a little bit of everybody. And it was, they could choose by activity, not necessarily for the year. And so that kind of drop-in opportunity really became a really strong opportunity for kids to connect in different ways that they perhaps didn't have otherwise. So for many different contributions, we will miss Beth, but wish her every happiness in her retirement. Okay. Yeah. Should I leave and come back in for? Okay. All right. Yeah. I know, it feels like it was like maybe a new thing, but so I'm here to also recognize Rose Pinette. Rose is at one of her granddaughter's high school graduations tonight, and she had planned to be here, but as you can imagine, that's also a very important event for her and her family. So Rose is retiring from her role as school secretary at our school. She has also worked in Durham, for Durham Elementary School, Durham Community School, RSU 5, I think for 35 years. And Rose has been an ongoing, significant member of the school. She's sort of front and center, greets people, answers phones, and has moved from being a parent volunteer to a coach to a part-time secretary to a full-time secretary / athletic director to then, as these roles continue to increase, to a full-time secretary. And then in recent years, we then asked if she would take on the role of assistant to the AD, and she added that onto her office secretary role. And I think in many ways that step there epitomizes Rose's commitment, because she was getting to a point in her career where she wasn't really looking to extend her day throughout her year, which the assistant to the AD definitely does that. But she equally, almost really brought it full circle. She'd started out being a coach because she really valued kids having opportunities to participate in sports and organized events and connect with each other. And recognizing that would be compromised if we weren't able to find someone to fill it, which at that point we weren't able to. She then stepped in and said, all right, I can go back to that and add that on. And I think that really does sort of show the sort of commitment Rose has had throughout her time at Durham. I think one piece I would just highlight also, is a sort of mantra at our school that every child be known by a significant adult. And for a number of students, that would be Rose. And we have, a few students for whom the office is a place where we often see them. They might need to take a break or come down and problem solve. And often the first person they will see there would be Rose. And she will always sort of greet them. She knows just when to be a little firmer with them, when to actually kind of put an arm around their shoulder, but always would be reinforcing all the good things they bring and the strategies they use to do a good job and have a good day. And oftentimes really do that kind of self-reflection work, to help the child do that self-reflection work and help them solve the problems themselves. So the list would go on, but we greatly appreciate all Rose's contributions and wish her also every happiness in her well-earned retirement. Who have I got next? Teasing.
And now I'd like to ask Principal Grimm up to speak about Peter Walensky.
I feel awkward. I'm talking to Peter behind me. So about a week ago, I found out from Bonnie Violette that she had earned the privilege of getting to speak about Peter Walensky. I almost challenged her to an arm wrestling contest to get the privilege, because it is so easy to say amazing things about Peter. And he is just such a fixture of our school community and such a valuable resource to me professionally. But alas, this morning, Bonnie couldn't be here. So without the arm wrestling contest, I have the privilege of sharing Bonnie's notes. But before I do that, I just want to preface it by saying Peter is truly a thought partner in every sense of the word. From my very first days at Mass Landing, when I was getting my feet under me and trying to problem solve tricky situations, he was always willing to sit at the table, to talk about kids, to see them as human beings, and most importantly, to think about the ways we can support kids in being their best selves. And he has continued to do that for the 5 years we have worked together, and it's been a great resource not just for me, but for the special education team and anybody who needs his support. And he truly just has great, deep insights. On a lighter note, I'll share some of Bonnie's reflections as well, so know that these come through her words, but these are the many things. Peter, there's going to be quite a few, 14 in fact, things that Bonnie will miss. So to begin with, we will miss your wonderful sense of humor. Just last week, a staff member asked how long you'd been here, meaning in the district, and you responded about 2 minutes. Additionally, every single time we do an evaluation meeting, there's a question on the state form that says, are the personnel who completed the evaluations qualified? To which Peter consistently replies, I sure hope so. He's the evaluator. Your sense of humor brought levity at many meetings that could have turned out less than agreeable. Secondly, we'll miss receiving your emails that say, on the bottom, sent telepathically. We'll miss having you look for the donuts when we had in-person special ed meetings. You said sometimes you came to the meetings just for the food, which I think is true. If you ever need a recommendation on a bakery, Peter's your guy. We'll miss that you played guitar at the beginning of a professional development session and then acknowledged you were there to provide training, not perform at a concert. We'll miss tracking you down to get your input on students you coined complicated. We'll miss your reminders that some students are really complicated and the depth of conversations we had with you about how to approach and program for them. We'll miss the confidence that everyone had in your perspective on students, whether in RTI or special ed. People sought your input to help them with serving students, and truly, like Peter is my go-to for input on students. We'll miss your friendly and gentle descriptions of how students performed on the evaluations you administered and your clear examples of how students' disabilities manifested in classrooms. It was exactly what was needed to help students and parents understand how to support students. We'll miss having you there to share your insight with parents about why children behave as they do. You offered clarity when you responded to team questions, and I just have to say here, Peter is so artful in the way he navigates challenging conversations with parents. He has a way to be entirely forthcoming with a parent about their child while also instilling confidence that we can work together to support that child. We'll miss hearing about David Kilpatrick's reading research. We followed up to learn more about what we should be doing based on how you describe it. Some of us actually watched Kilpatrick's videos and read his books based on your recommendations. We'll miss hearing about specific evaluations that should be administered as part of a reading evaluation, like the test of word reading efficiency. It provoked our thinking to look more deeply at what we're doing. We'll miss hearing your commentary about the Department of Ed's specific learning disability form. We'll miss hearing your suggestions for ways to improve the Department of Instructional Support. It was on the one hand gratifying to hear we were on the right track and humbling to hear where we should be going. Most of all, and I agree with Bonnie, we'll miss having you as a colleague and a thought partner. Bonnie notes she looks forward to following you on Facebook, Twitter, your personal blog, as you journey cross-country in your camper. Please send us updates, and we wish you the best. Thank you, Peter, for all your service. Do you want me to stay? Okay. Right. Okay. You forgot the arrow section. I know. You mastered the walk. May I jump right in? So I also have the privilege tonight of honoring Kathy Britton, who has worked in multiple schools in the district, but most recently has served as a special education ed tech at Mass Landing School. This woman is the true epitome of a consummate professional. There is nobody more professional than she. Among Kathy's many interests and skills is that she's a beekeeper. You might not have known that. And as I reflected today on her many years of service in the district, I quickly noticed some strong parallels between her strengths and the qualities of the bees that she keeps at her home in Freeport. Like the bee, loyal to the hive, Kathy demonstrates unyielding commitment to the students of this district. Early in her time in the district, she worked in the preschool and then as a classroom ed tech for a few years before finding her true passion. And when I say passion, I mean it, working with children with disabilities as a special education ed tech. Throughout her career, she has remained committed to the students of our communities, and I think truly that the number of days she has missed over several decades could be counted literally on one hand. I'm pretty close to right, aren't I, Kathy? Yeah. Her reliability is second to none. Like the honeybee, Kathy works tirelessly each day for the students she serves and for our school community at large. She is often at school an hour or more before students arrive, prepping materials and preparing for the day. When she has a spare moment, she never stops buzzing. She is quick to identify and follow through on any way she can help lighten others' loads or contribute to student learning. She seeks to add value to every moment of her day. She never stops. As a supportive coworker, she supports her team for the betterment of the hive. She makes sure to check in with her colleagues, shares positive encouragement, and is someone her colleagues can lean on when things are difficult. She brings a can-do attitude to her role and is always willing to help where needed. The results of her work are as sweet as honey for her kids. One only needs to observe her work with students to see the deep care she shows for each of them. Truly, kids' eyes shine in her presence. She's compassionate and patient, and she gives students the space to learn while providing gentle support. We are so fortunate that through her life's journey, which took her from England to South Africa to Canada to the United States, that she landed here in Freeport in an RSU 5. She has truly been a critical member of our team, and we will dearly miss you, Kathy. Thank you for your service.
Principal Grogan, could you make your way up here?
Ray Grogan, Freeport Middle School. I have the pleasure of talking about Linda Pritchard. Linda Pritchard has been teaching at our building for 29 years, but prior to that, she was an ed tech in our building. And her experience as an ed tech, I think, was really, really good in shaping who she is as a teacher, because she gained a lot of knowledge about being an ed tech and how, as a special ed teacher, how to use ed techs to get the most out of every ed tech and every hour that we have in the school with the kids. The ability she had to work with the ed techs and provide training and expertise to them so that they could deliver the highest possible level of instruction to our kids, it was absolutely amazing with her. So many times, different special ed directors and different people would say, "You're so lucky, the ed techs that you have in your building." And I would always say, "Yes, I am." And then I would always give credit to Linda, because you really, the training, I've talked to Linda about this many times, what she does with our ed techs and to maximize what we have in our building has been absolutely amazing. And that's going to be a very tough thing to replace for you, and how you provided that leadership within that. The same dedication and the way she treated and interacted with ed techs is the exact same way she treated, interacted with the teachers. She showed incredible dedication, true caring about each student individually, and then also held students to an incredibly high standard. She would get students that may not have had success in the past, and they would come to her and feel success that they hadn't felt in a long time. And then they would start believing in themselves. And then the number of students that, by the time the end of 8th grade, that Linda had in mainstream classes that hadn't been in mainstream classes for many years before, because of that belief in them and the skills that she taught them to get there, is an absolute, great thing. Just, the number of kids that we had mainstreamed because of what you have taught them, the skills along the way, and that teaching them what to believe in themselves and they have it, was absolutely amazing. She's also a major leader in our building. Linda many times will come to me and let me know what different issues or what we can do better. But she's always coming with solutions too. It's never complaining, we have this problem, what's going to happen. You come with multiple solutions and people that are willing to help and come together and work together. Just amazing how came with ideas and solutions and people willing to work to solve the problems. So incredible, thankful for all of your work with that. I look at kind of the last couple things that we, a few years ago when we become a standards-based school. You were huge in the middle of that, working with teachers, working with kids, working with everyone, and help get us to a great spot. Last summer, when we're trying to come back to school and not knowing what that's going to look like, Linda's in all the time over the summer helping us plan, helping us work with teachers, work with the nurses to figure out what's going to be safe to get our kids in the door. What procedures and routines do we have to do? And Linda's voice all summer long really allowed us to have the positive start we had. And then when we started talking about coming back green and coming back full time, Linda was hands-on and part of that plan to help make it better. Because trust me, the first plan we talked about is not the plan you saw. And Linda can acknowledge that, when the first ideas came out and what we talked about, it did not look like the plan that you saw. There was a lot of revisions in part, and Linda was a major part of that. Really, we'll miss that, your way you can collaboratively work with everyone, and then when we have a good plan, tell other people about it and get more people on board with that. I feel like a lot has been talked about her as a leader in our building, which she absolutely is, and it'd be a huge loss to the building. But what she's best at, to put it simply, is she's a remarkable teacher, and that is who she is. All these other things are great, and I've been very lucky to have her, but she's a great teacher, and we're definitely going to miss you at the middle school in RSU 5, Linda.
And Principal Gulko will make her way up here to honor our last retiree, Nancy Drolet.
Good evening. I'm Jen Gulko, the principal of the high school, and I have the pleasure of speaking about Nancy Drolet tonight. Nancy has been a part of the Freeport High School and RSU 5 community for 21 years. She has been a dedicated teacher, coach, colleague, president of the CEA, and she cares deeply about supporting our community. In my 6 years of working with Nancy, I've seen her help students develop a love for an appreciation for the outdoors through her outdoor fitness class. Some of these were kids who had never put on hiking boots before in their life and were bursting with pride after summiting a mountain with Nancy. I've seen her bring confidence and joy to students on the unified basketball team as their coach and also as their biggest fan And it has literally been one of the best school activities that I have ever seen in my career. It not only brought joy to the students on the team and the coaches, but to our entire school. I've seen her advocate for her colleagues, and she's been by their side in very difficult situations and handled it with grace. I've seen her get a class of 13 ninth grade girls into the habit of doing silent meditation and mindfulness for 20 minutes every class, which is no small feat. I actually substituted that class, and the girls led me through the meditation after Nancy teaching them so well. Nancy has brought her whole heart into our school and our district every single day, and she has made a significant impact on our community. I know that she's looking forward to spending time in the outdoors and on the porch of her camp after she retires, and those restful days will be so very well deserved. We will miss you, Nancy, and we are grateful for all that you have given to Freeport High School and RSU 5.
I encourage our retirees to. I encourage our retirees to take desserts home when you leave and drinks. I recommend the lemon. I've had a taste. It's delicious thanks to our nutrition staff. But I really want to thank you for your years of service to RSU 5. We're really lucky that the district is able to attract and retain such dedicated educators that focus first on kids, and I think you can see that through the stories that have been told tonight. So we wish you well on whatever your next adventures are, and I'll just put in a plug, we need subs. So if you really start to miss us, sign up to sub. We would love to have each of you. So thank you again, and of course you're welcome to stay for our lovely board meeting, which is always so exciting. It gets top ratings all the time, but if you want to leave, we also recognize that. So thank you once again.
It's great, we can watch the recordings now.
I know.
It's just like, fast forward. I know, while we're eating dessert. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. So, report from the student rep. We don't have that this evening, so we will move on to 7, which is public comment. We have the opportunity to speak here in person in the cafeteria, as well as folks on Zoom. We do have a couple folks here. I'm not sure if they're here to speak, but we will certainly give them that opportunity if they'd like to. We just ask that you come up to the microphone. Just give us your name and where you're from, and the floor is yours.
Hello, my name's Christine Lyons, and thank you so much for having me here tonight. I have to start just by saying how amazingly grateful I am as a parent, and all of the parents that I talk to, for the work that you guys have put in, for the work, Dr. Foley, that you have put in, Emily Graham, the rest of the principals, the faculty, the staff. What you guys pulled off this year in this district was amazing. And when I say it was the envy of districts around Maine, and even as I talk to friends across the country, truly districts across the country, I am not lying. Everyone would say to me, how did you do it? So congratulations to all of you for the amazing work, amazing work you've done. So I'm here tonight because I am a hockey parent. And when you sign up to be a hockey parent, you know that there are going to be late nights, and there are going to be early mornings, and there's going to be tons of travel. And you do it because you love your kid, and you do it because your kid loves hockey, and you do it because there is this amazing hockey community around your child. So that's why, as a group of parents in Freeport, we were so disappointed when we had a situation where we had the potential to co-op with a town that was closer than the town we currently co-op with, which is South Portland. And we had been approached by Brunswick to co-op with them. And it was a conversation that began in March, but the way it unfolded, it really did not pan out, and truly the disappointment was was palpable among not only the parents but the kids. So what we're left with is basically a handful of days in order to try to find a different solution. And we understand from the athletic director that there really may not be another solution at this point. So what I'm here to talk about is really to try to hope that in the longer term that we can look for, if this year is not going to change and shift, what we would love to do is try to bring that same kind of innovation that we brought to this school year to this really sticky problem. Because what happens is that currently now, we co-op with South Portland, which means our kids may need to be down in Biddeford as early sometimes as 5:30 or 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning. Which, if you have a high school child, you know is not necessarily an ideal situation. For one metric, it's literally outside the driving hours that they would be allowed to drive. So if the state thinks this is not a good idea, potentially we think this isn't a good idea as well. When we did survey the parents, there were 15 out of the 18 families who responded that this situation in South Portland was less ideal than the one that we had looked at in Brunswick. 14 out of 16 of those parents who were in this meeting that we had were even willing to pay to find a better solution. So if you think about students paying for school sports, a nominal fee, that really to me speaks just volumes. Sorry, I brought notes. So what ends up happening is now that our kids are going to be, again, traveling these very long distances, they will be playing with a team that can sometimes not be particularly welcoming for our students. There are often comments in the locker room about how Freeport students take their ice time. There are also teams that when we looked at them at the beginning of the co-op this year were going to be enormous. They didn't wind up to be that way, and I think that might have had a large part to do with COVID. But really the numbers were sort of untenable, the driving is untenable, and really the relationship can be somewhat contentious. We are very grateful, I should say, to have any place to play hockey, because even though the numbers may be small, we're talking about 18 families, so that is a small number in some ways. Hockey is a huge, huge part of these kids' lives. And once they crest out of freshman year, they have no other options really to play. They don't have club teams. They have nowhere else to go. They do have shoulder seasons, but if they play any other sport, that's not an option. So I just think that as a district, we could look at what is best for these kids, this, again, small group of kids, but they deserve as much care as other teams do in looking at really the best place to place them. I was asked to speak sort of on behalf of a couple of parents. And so if I can take one moment to give some of their public comment as well. I'm just going to scroll and find it. We had a parent who wanted to say that the survey results, it was clear from the survey results, that hockey people in Freeport really want something different, and that it might take a little time and a little effort to make that happen. But now we're in the 11th hour, and we still can potentially pursue these things. And we can find things that are out there. We don't have to wait necessarily next time for someone to come knocking on our door. And someone else had just had a question too, when we do get to this point in the meeting, was just to know really what the background of the conversations were, because we know as hockey parents there are hockey politics, and we know there's a long history of hockey politics that happened and with co-ops. And so where else did we look, and did we only look at one option, and what else could be out there if we haven't looked at other options that we could kind of address. So that's it on the hockey parent front for the evening. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And again, just hats off to all of you. It is tremendous and it's appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom?
We do not.
We do not. It doesn't look like anyone else is coming up to the mic here. We do have another opportunity at the end of our meeting if anyone is so inclined, but otherwise we will carry on with the agenda and move on to the report from the superintendent.
Thank you. I have a few resignations to report tonight. John Curry, Mass Landing Ed Tech, Riza Causey, PES Ed Tech, Jess Wall, Moore Street School Ed Tech, Jen Murch, Durham Community School Ed Tech, Talia Edlin, Math Strategy District-wide. And also I have one retirement to report that will be effective November 17th, Joyce May Ed Tech at Moore Street School. On the COVID front, as I always do a COVID update, we are now at 52 confirmed and 3 probables for a total of 55 of our students having tested positive since September. With 11 staff members testing positive, we're now at 66 total positive cases in RSU 5. This is 2.82% of the total student population and 2.6% of the staff population. We've had 2 new positive cases in students in the past 14 days. Freeport now is reporting 323 cases, Durham 163. Pownell remains between 20 and 49, and South Freeport remains between 6 and 19. As far as we know, all students and staff who have had COVID here in our schools have recovered and returned to school and work, except for our most recent cases. The most exciting COVID news of the day is that we heard from the DOE that in the fall there will no longer be any physical distancing requirements in school, which solves our lunch challenges that we have recently talked about. So we think we are set to go with this latest news. We are not at this point going to pursue the pool testing with this latest news. And the big question that I keep receiving, are we going to have to keep wearing the mask? And for all that I'm aware of right now is yes, that our students and staff will still need to remain masked while indoors. So our recent equity updates, we have Carmen, our consultant from MAEC, who will be providing additional training to the nutrition staff, transportation staff, custodial staff, and community programs on June 15th. And then there is another training scheduled for October the 7th to continue the work with the high school staff. The DEI committee had their last meeting for the year on Tuesday. That was just yesterday. There was a robust discussion about Kevin Ng's resolution that he presented to the board. That discussion will be continued in the fall, and we're planning on meeting for the first time in the fall in October. We do meet every second Tuesday from 7 to 8 a.m. and those meetings are by Zoom, so others who are interested can attend the meeting, and we're providing a public comment at the end of the meeting for those that are kind of guests at the committee meetings if they want to say something. The data on discipline, attendance, and academic achievement has now been sent to MAEC, and we expect their analysis of the data sometime in the summer. I have recently, in the last couple of weeks, received a couple of emails asking if we're planning on teaching critical race theory. We have no systemic plans to teach CRT. What we have planned is for great school partnerships to help us facilitate the review of the social studies curriculum beginning in the fall, because we now have newly revised standards as of 2019 from the main learning results. Anyone can review those standards by going to our website. You just go to the website and there's a link that says departments, and you click on that, and underneath that link there's a curriculum link. And you can view any of our curriculums, and definitely you can see the standards that we will be reviewing in the fall. There is a strand specifically, I'm not sure where all the confusion is lying right now, but there is a strand in the social studies standards that begin in kindergarten, and it reads, to help students to understand historical aspects of the uniqueness and commonality of individuals and groups, including Maine Native Americans, by explaining how individuals and families share both common and unique aspects of culture, values, and beliefs through stories, traditions, religions, celebrations, or the arts. And that strand continues every year and is taught. And by high school, when you follow that same strand, high school students are expected to understand historical aspects of unity and diversity in the United States, the world, and Native American communities using primary and secondary sources. They need to be able to critique and analyze issues in the United States as well as other nations. I have tried and will continue to try to be very transparent about the work we are doing around equity. The minutes of the DEI are posted on the website, and I have also tried to include an equity update in each of my monthly superintendent's reports. My most recent newsletter also outlined the work we've completed this year. Our ultimate goal remains to create very inclusive school communities where all of our students have opportunities to thrive and grow. On the sports update, Craig Sickles is here tonight, and he told me that our boys baseball team recently defeated Freiburg, so we are still in the running. We will be playing Gray New Gloucester tomorrow at 3:30 here in Freeport. Boys lacrosse team, they are still in the playoffs, and they'll be playing Wells tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Wells. And lastly, we have our girls lacrosse team. They have a bye because they are currently the #1 seed, and they will be playing their next game on Saturday, tentatively at 10 o'clock, but that is not a confirmed time yet. So we wish these 3 teams that remain in the running good luck, and we're hoping that maybe all of them will become state champs, but we'll see. Stay tuned. I want to thank all of the voters who went out and supported the budget. We now have a passed budget, and we'll continue our work with creating a stronger RSU. And then I just want to remind board members and the public that our plan for the hybrid and remote meetings will end with tonight's meeting, and we will return to in-person board meetings in the fall, and there will no longer be a Zoom link where they can do public comment, but we will have, they will have, the meetings will still be live streamed. And lastly, I too want to thank, like Christine did, the communities, the staff, the board, for their support throughout this year as we toggled between remote, hybrid plus to full in-person learning. When we say it takes a village, we truly brought that phrase to life this year, and it was because of our collective efforts in rowing in the same direction that we were successful in our efforts to educate our students during a pandemic. But we do look forward to a much more normal return in September. And that concludes my report.
That was full of good news. Thank you for that. You have a question, Maddie?
I have two. Thank you, Becky. First question with regard to the curriculum review for social studies. Is that, I know we haven't had our August meeting yet where we determine what our schedule looks like next year, but I'm hoping there's a plan to bring that to the school board, for school board to review. And I'm also wondering if MAAC will be involved in that and the DEI committee will have a chance to review that as well?
Are you talking about like the specific plan of how we will be approaching the social studies?
Yes.
We are in beginning conversations with great schools partnerships, and we definitely have a thought process outlined. And of course, at the board retreat, we'd talked about on the equity goal that would be more fully outlined. So that would be the chance for the board to look at that. And of course, once the board looks at that, it is, it's pretty much public information, when we put it up on the website. But it's something that I would be happy to discuss with the DEI committee about the work, when we meet in October. I'm happy to put that on the agenda.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I'm also just curious, as an old HR person, I can't help but sort of wonder about trends in resignations. And since we only see resignations sort of piecemeal as they come in when we meet, I don't know what the data is, nor should I have access to the data necessarily, but 5 ed tech resignations on tonight's agenda concerns me. So I'm also requesting that maybe early next year we might have an opportunity to hear a report back, or at least in a board update, what are the trends that you're seeing? Are there areas of concern, things we should be paying attention to?
So one thing I'll say about ed techs, and I think you heard it tonight when Principal Grogan was talking about Linda. Many people take an ed tech position as a stepping stone, right? So there are a lot of teachers that begin as an ed tech, and then they launch from there after being an ed tech for a few years with the district. But I'm also happy in like one of my weekly updates to maybe go into that further.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there may be other trends as well. I'm especially after the year we've had, I'm curious. Thanks.
Oh, Vali?
Thank you, Becky. Follow up to people resigning. You do exit interviews, right, whenever possible?
I did one today. In their letter that says, I accept your resignation, in that letter I offer to do exit interviews, but of course it's not forced. And so I would say at least 50% kind of take me up on that offer, and there are always delightful conversations where I feel like, I'm able to gain a lot of good information.
Okay. So I think that's it for that page, right? Yep. No administrative reports or committee reports this evening, so we will move to policy review. Do I see Cynthia? Did I just miss her?
Sorry, Michelle. There was
Cynthia had
we skipped the meeting schedule. I don't have anything to say, but in case anybody needs to comment.
Oh, you're right.
Yes,
It is on there.
yes.
It's between happenings and resignations.
Yes, thank you, Valerie, for that. I should have
Stuck
pointed that
into
out,
her.
but I got so excited about my report that I skipped right over it. So you do have in your packet on the kind of lime green, the meeting schedule for next year that we are proposing.
So this shows us taking the show on the road again? That's the plan?
Yes,
Okay.
we are happy to take the show on the road. One change, thank you for that cue, very subtle, is that In the past, in the past couple of years, we've rotated to Moore Street and Mass Landing. The reason we're not recommending that is that our equipment over the past, I would say, year has become much more sophisticated with the camera system. And so we're happy to arrange, you know, we have the, in the fall, Dennis does the road show to all the buildings, but we just feel like for the equipment and for how complicated it is, that when we are having it in Freeport, that we'll just have it here. This is where the equipment is stored.
Okay. Molly?
And the staff from the other 3 schools will come to the high school then to do good news and recognition for whichever school? Yes. Okay.
Okay. This is just for information, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just remind everybody to put the 25th of August on your calendar. And typically that one will start earlier in the day, not 6:30, usually 4-ish, something like that. So if anybody's got an issue with that already, let us know. And thank you for that, pointing that out, Molly. I would have flown right by. All right, so now we're back to Cynthia.
And Cynthia had a family emergency today, so I am going to attempt to take her place on this, except I've already given Candy a heads up that I'm going to say that this is a second read for these 2 policies. You can note the changes, but I'm going to turn it over to Candy to review those changes.
Okay, and Maddie and Lindsay, you know, jump in. If you look at the suspension of students, it's pretty straightforward. In the first paragraph, just the sentence was just changed. And then if you look down at kind of the third paragraph, that's the paragraph about letting students whose presence proposes a continuing danger, letting them know about any charges, evidence, and opportunity to present their version, not to exceed 5 days. So it means to get it to them as quickly as possible. And the next paragraph, basically using email for notification too in this day and age. And then the added sentence there, in the event a parent guardian is not available, the student will not be released from school until an emergency contact or suitable adult is notified. Okay?
Where's that sentence?
Yeah, that's
It's a revised.
It's not yellow, but
There's a revised
Yeah, open your purple folders.
folder. There's a revised copy.
Oh, okay. This one came out of my purple folder. All right, there's another one. Okay, got it. Sorry.
It's in that 4th paragraph, and it's the underlined part that isn't highlighted.
Okay. Perfect. Great,
Right.
thank you.
And then the next paragraph, you know, students who are serving out of school suspensions can't participate in extracurricular activities. And in the last one, even students who are doing in-school suspension are expected to do all the work and they can't participate either, but expected to do all of their assignments and whatnot. Those were the recommendations for that. Any questions about that? And then the other one, disciplinary removal of students with disabilities. It's just in the second paragraph. It's shall rather than may develop and promulgate procedures. And then at the end, they shall fully advise all students and parents and guardians of these procedures. Pretty straightforward, simple change.
All right, so do we have a motion for consideration and approval of the following policies second read? JKD, suspension of students, and JKF, disciplinary removal of students with disabilities. Beth and Susanna, thank you. Any questions? I appreciate the addition of that sentence. All right, if we have no further questions on that one, we will take a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Great, thank you. Okay, here's the fun ones. Okay, so unfinished business. So do I have a motion to move that the computation and declaration of votes dated June 9th, 2021 and attached here to be approved, that the computation of declaration of votes be entered upon the records of Regional School Unit Number 5, that a certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks within the regional school unit, and that the foregoing computation and declaration shall be signed by a majority of the school board, and that these signatures may be made electronically by execution of counterparts or in person at the convenience of the members of the school board. Susanna, thanks. Vali, seconds. Okay, so this basically, your pink paper in here, which has the official votes from the 3 towns, which showed that all 6 of the budget articles passed in total across the district. So basically what we're just doing is verifying these, well, not verifying these, we're certifying these, and then we're going to send them to the towns to show that the budget has been duly approved. Any questions? No? All those in favor? Okay, none opposed. One other side note on the election yesterday is June's election cycle is when Pownell elects their school board members. And so I didn't get to thank Angela at the beginning of the meeting for being so willing to jump in the middle of such a crazy year and help out with us and you know, do this hard work this year. So I know that you you didn't run, so you won't be with us next year, but I just wanted to thank you for your time and your effort and your input this year, and enjoy your summer.
Thank you, and I want to say that it's been great to meet all of you and to see all the hard work you're doing, and I really appreciate all your work.
All right, so Jill Piker, I think that's her last name, will be our new Pownell representative starting on July 1st. So, all right, so new business. Wait, do I have another motion? Oh, yes, I do, the warrants. Yeah, that's an important one. Rick would have tackled me before I got out the door if I didn't get that one. So do I have a motion to move that the warrant for assessment of tax and the assessment schedule and notice of installments for each member municipality prepared by the treasurer for fiscal year 2021-2022 be approved and be issued in form presented to this meeting, and that the treasurer be authorized and directed to deliver to each member municipality its warrant for assessment of tax and its assessment schedule and notice of installments? Susanna, Beth, thank you. Any questions on that one? That one basically just says we can send the bills to the 3 towns to collect. All right, all those in favor? Okay. None opposed. So A and B for unfinished are done. So new business is, do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire staff between June 10th, 2021, tomorrow, and the first board meeting in September 2021? Angela and Vali, thank you. This is just typical. We put this in place so since we don't meet over the summer, we don't want to hold up the hiring process. So this just allows Becky to move forward with those at her discretion. Any questions on that one? All right, all those in favor? None opposed, thank you. B, so this is another one that we have on the agenda each year. Do I have a motion for consideration of approval that pursuant to section 14854 of Title 20A, that the Finance Committee be authorized to transfer not more than 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center in the FY22 operating budget to another cost center or among other cost centers, provided that the total FY22 fiscal year operating budget shall not be increased by such transfers. Vali, Susanna, thank you. Okay, basically what this one means, and this one's actually for next year. We've already approved it for this year. So what oftentimes can happen is if one of the line items is over any amount, just a little bit, we will transfer from another, we have the ability to transfer from another cost center, another article number, as long as it doesn't exceed 5% of that line item. So sometimes, you know, teachers will get paid, it'll change where it comes from, or things change. So this just allows, you know, minor transfers back and forth with the majority of the finance committee vote. So that's what that one is for. Any questions? All those in favor? None opposed. Great. Not that I'm glad that Jen's not on Zoom, but this is a lot of votes to do a roll call for. All right. Okay, so do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the following athletic cooperative agreements for the 2021, 2022, and 2022-2023 school years? Apparently they're done in a 2-year cycle. Nordic skiing cooperative individuals with Brunswick, girls ice hockey cooperative team with Yarmouth, alpine skiing cooperative team with Brunswick, and boys ice hockey cooperative team with to be determined. Maura and Angela, thank you. All right, so I think there's probably going to be some discussion on this one since we're having handouts. Thank you, Craig.
Hi, Craig. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Craig Sickles, the Athletic Administrator for RSU 5. We probably should take these one at a time because there are a little bit different nuances with each one. First is the Nordic skiing. My recommendation in practice together. They score as separate teams. So when we go to a meet, Freeport High School has a score and Brunswick has a score. This last year, Freeport High School had 15 total students, 11 boys and 4 girls. We have 2 seniors graduating, and in the 8th grade, this last year, we had 4 boys and 3 girls. Brunswick had 5 boys and 6 girls. Next year, if all of the 8th graders continue, and predicting participation from the middle school to the high school is not an exact science, but if everybody does, we would have 20 students from Freeport High School, 14 boys and 6 girls. The top 4 score for a team, so all 20 race, and the top 4 boys and the top 4 girls score for our team to give us a team score. Are there any questions?
So this is a continuation of what we've done for the last 6 years.
This would be our 3rd, so the last 4 years.
Oh, so, okay, we're going into our 3rd, okay.
We're
Yep,
going
got
into
it.
our 5th and 6th.
So no change to how it's been done.
Correct.
Okay.
The second one is alpine skiing. My recommendation is to make reapplication for an MPA cooperative team agreement with Brunswick High School. Again, this is our 3rd 2-year cycle. They train and practice together, and unlike Nordic skiing, they score as one team. We are not called the Freeport Falcons. We're called the Freeport/Brunswick ski team. In 2020-21, Freeport High School had 18 skiers, 12 boys and 6 girls. We have 1 senior on the team, and in this year's 8th grade, there was 6 boys and 3 girls. Brunswick had a total of 6 alpine skiers, 2 boys and 4 girls. If the numbers hold true, Freeport would have 26 skiers next year, 17 boys and 9 girls. And again, predicting that is not an exact science. And just like Nordic, the top 4 finishes score. And I should add that the next 2, whether it's Nordic or alpine, displace skiers. So they don't score for us, but they affect the other scores of the other teams and give them lower scores. So while they don't score for us, it's important that we do have 2 other finishers with pretty good times, because that helps us ensure us a better score.
My only question on that is why for Nordic do we do it individually and for Alpine we do it team? It seems like the numbers are similar for
Yeah,
both.
when we first started, the numbers weren't. We did not have a scoring girls team. And even though we had 4 girls this year, there's one girl that didn't ski because of injury and the sickness, and then there was quarantining. So while you might have 4 on paper, the actual people who show up at a hill, or maybe even 6, so if you have 6 on paper, it sometimes you wind up with not a scoring team.
But yet for the Alpine, we had the same, basically the same number of girls between the Freeport and Brunswick. Right, so why is it an issue for one but not the other?
I think it also depends on the sport and the coaches and what the other school wants as well. I was going to get into this later, but to have a cooperative team, there needs to have schools that have wants and needs. When we're searching out someone to be our ice hockey partner with us, we have a want. We want someplace to send our kids. On the other end, there has to be a need, there has to be a willingness. And so when the 2 schools talk, the 2 coaches talk, those things are kind of ironed out, what's best for our situation and for our kids. And this is what we've wound up is a nice working mechanism. And while they're in the Nordic, they're 2 separate teams, but they practice together. And if you went to a Nordic ski meet, Freeport kids would be cheering just as loud for the Brunswick kids, and the Brunswick kids would be just cheering as loud. So it is a very unique dynamic of camaraderie and teammanship that's kind of fun to watch.
Okay. Susanna? Not Valerie, Susanna? Susanna?
Thanks. Just a clarification on that, because you mentioned the alpine skiing being related to numbers this past year with quarantining and sickness, et cetera, injury. Is the score system with the 2 teams, is that set, or is that something that's somewhat flexible to the degree that, you know, if we have a team, whether it's this coming year or the following year, in which we can get from both schools a minimum of 4 scoring athletes, is that open to discussion amongst the coaches whether they want to score separately or individually, or are we going into a 2-year cycle in which this is the set?
It's a 2-year cycle, and we would be a Freeport / Brunswick 1 team.
Okay.
For 2 years.
Greg, for both Alpine and Nordic, the participation for boys is much higher than girls. Is it possible to do a combined team for one gender but not the other? It sounds like we have definitely a need for the girls in terms of competing together, but not for the boys, because we have a lot of boys. So is that something that has been considered ever?
I'm not sure if the boys and girls can separate, but I think if you look at Brunswick with 2 boys, yeah, we might be able to go it alone, but where does that leave them? And I think a lot of people have helped us along the way. South Portland for boys ice hockey, Yarmouth for girls ice hockey, Yarmouth for boys and girls skiing. And I see this as an opportunity to give back, to help someone else where so many others have helped us. And you know, to leave Brunswick high and dry with no place to go. And again, that's kind of like when I get to the boys ice hockey, you know, Brunswick left us high and dry with no place to go. And it's a different situation because it's more of a team sport, where skiing is more of an individual. It's a team sport, but it's individual as well.
Yeah, and I'm thinking specifically of Nordic, because I'm more familiar with Nordic these days. We have very few girls, and oftentimes we don't have enough to score. So in that situation, it may be something to consider if the 2 genders can be separated. I don't know if, I'm not suggesting you do that now, I'm just asking the question. Has it been thought about, and is it something that anyone ever considers?
Yeah, I don't know if the boys and girls can be separated. that's something I can check out. But again, you know, on the Nordic side, Brunswick had 5 boys and 6 girls, and anytime anyone was sick, they don't have a scoring team. So.
Everybody good with skiing? Moving on to hockey?
All right, girls ice hockey, again, recommending a reapplication for a cooperative team agreement. This agreement first started in the fall of, the first winter was 2013-14, so we've been doing this for a long time. This would be our 5th 2-year cycle. I might add that the leading scorer in the history of Yarmouth hockey, or Yarmouth/Freeport hockey, is a Freeport girl. They train, practice, and compete as one team. It's Yarmouth/Freeport. This last year we had 6 skaters, and all of them will return, and I have no idea, because ice hockey is not a middle school sport. They're run by clubs, the Casco Bay Hockey, and I don't even begin to understand all the different bantams and things that go on with the youth ice hockey. The boys ice hockey is a little bit more complicated. Again, I am recommending a return and a reapplication for a team agreement with South Portland and Waynfleet. We've been with South Portland again since the school year 13-14. Waynfleet joined us. I think this will be Waynfleet's 3rd 2-year cycle with us. Again, they train and practice and compete as one team. You know, I'm always looking for things that benefit us, and like I just mentioned, there has to be a team, there has to be a want and a need, and there are a lot of things that go into team co-ops, a lot of consideration. One is classification. When you have a co-op, you have to take the enrollments of both schools. It's been changed a little bit, so it's only a percentage. When we used to do co-ops and Freeport and Yarmouth joined, they would take the school's enrollment and the school's enrollment and add them both together. Probably 4 years ago, they defined the receiving school and the sending school, and if there was 10 kids on a team and Freeport only had 1, then they would take only 10% of our enrollment. So there's some math to be had there, and no one's going to want to co-op and go from B to A. There's a uniform piece to that. The next uniform cycle, the MPA doesn't make you go out and buy new uniforms immediately, but the next uniform cycle, the schools involved need to be represented somehow on that uniform with color or with name. You lose your school identity. You're no longer the Freeport Falcons. You are the Freeport/Brunswick. And there are some schools that means a whole lot to. And of course, you just heard a parent talk about playing time. Anytime there's a team co-op, like ice hockey, there's playing time involved. Not so much in Nordic skiing and alpine skiing, because everybody gets to race. So there's no complaints. No one's getting displaced until the alpine state champion, when the best skiers from both schools are picked. So there's a number of factors that go into, we want a co-op, but who needs us to help them out? We explored an option with Brunswick. They approached me. We had several discussions, their administration and I. I had a Zoom meeting with 18 parents. This woman up here, she mentioned there was 18 parents. Those 18 parents span boys skaters from 5th grade to seniors. So it's not 18 parents in high school that want their kids to skate. There was 18 that spanned 5th grade to 12th grade. When that Zoom meeting was over, I sent a survey to those same parents, and you've heard her say the results. So it was overwhelming that our parents wanted to go with Brunswick. After I got the survey done and all the information, had a subsequent conversation with Brunswick, and they said, we're not interested for the next 2-year cycle. Whether or not they'll be interested 2 years from now, I have no idea. But for right now, our only option is to return to South Portland and Waynfleet. We had 7 boys skate this year, 3 graduate, so we'll have 4 plus however many freshmen opt to skate.
So similar to the other ones, it's, you know, you lock in for 2 years. So if we didn't re-up right now with South Portland and Waynfleet, we couldn't play with anyone for 2 years.
There's no one, correct.
If we found someone in October who said, we'll take you, could you do it then?
It would be a 1-year deal. If we didn't play this year and then found someone else next year,
yeah,
we could do a 1-year cycle. We would just do it one, and then we'd have to re-up for the next 2.
For the next 2. So you would if you didn't do this one, you would definitely be out for the 21-22 year.
Yeah. And South Portland wants us. Their numbers are big now. When we first joined them, they were on the verge of losing their program. They did not have enough kids to form one varsity team. And just like we struggled with some of our football, they were having freshmen and sophomores playing in a varsity game because they had to, because they didn't have enough numbers. And I know how that is because we went through that with football. And so now that we have come and helped them, the program is thriving so much so that they have 2 JV teams, and playing time is still not what everybody wants. But their numbers are going to be going down, and they do not want to lose us because in 2 or 3 years, they're going to need us again. You know, right now they could go it alone, but that's South Portland's situation.
Bali.
So Greg, did Brunswick say why they were not interested after approaching you? And did they say for the next 2 years, would it be possible to sign just one cycle agreement with South Portland in the hopes that Brunswick maybe reconsiders, and then you can sign another 1-year cycle with Brunswick and then move in that direction?
Cooperative team agreements are for 2-year cycle. If you don't have one in year 1, then you can do a 1 year to finish out the two years, and then the next two years would be another 2-year cycle. So when they approached me, I assumed with what we had discussed that they had done their homework and kind of had their ducks in a row. That's when I had my Zoom meeting and our survey. I gave them the results of that, and then they had their own survey. And that survey from their parents came back overwhelmingly against the co-op. I mentioned them that probably the order of parent meetings and surveys should have been reversed. You know, instead of going through that with all of our parents and then finding out they didn't want to do it in the end was a little disheartening, and I think it was disheartening for the parents too, because I think we were all under the impression that this might happen. So that's unfortunate.
So Brunswick numbers are where they are comfortable, the parents are comfortable, they don't need more players, like South Portland will in the future?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Beth.
In the skiing and then in this 2 skiing, you have the numbers for the other schools, but on the hockey, you don't. Is that just because you don't have that information?
Yeah, each school tracks their own. I have Brunswick for this year because we had to do seating charts and take attendance. So the skiers, the ski coaches put the Freeport kids and the Brunswick kids on the same seating chart and the same attendance. So I happen to know the Brunswick kids. I have no clue what South Portland has. Waynfleet has similar numbers to us.
Okay. I just was also curious, with the boys ice hockey, when it's South Portland, they seem to be the biggest of the 3 schools, like.
They are the receiving school.
So that means they play as South Portland.
South Portland / Freeport / Waynfleet.
Okay, so they do include the names of the schools as the,
Yeah.
okay.
Now,
And
the
then-
newspaper sometimes will just take
yeah.
the receiving school because that's the bigger school. It's the school that's had the sport. But if you look at the heel points, this is a guess, but it's going to be pretty accurate. Of all of the schools, of all of the ice hockey teams, boys and girls, the vast majority of them are co-ops.
Okay.
There's single-digit schools that stand alone.
Sure. And I just had a quick question that it says Yarmouth Freeport under boys ice hockey, but is that incorrect?
I'm sorry.
I think they just copied the bullet from
It
up
just
above.
copied the bullet point
yes,
from
I'm
above. Okay,
sorry.
just wanted to make sure that we weren't talking about Yarmouth in there too.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I cut and pasted, sorry.
That's all right, thank you.
Jeremy.
Just got a couple questions. One, since Yarmouth was just mentioned, what is their co-op situation? And with girls being there, it would feel like it would be natural to go with the boys too. I'm just curious what the situation is there.
So, for years, we courted Yarmouth. That was our first want. We even had a meeting with them, our parents, our boosters, their boosters, the coaching staff, the administration. We had a parent who did a PowerPoint presentation, had the numbers, and then Freeport left, and Yarmouth stayed to discuss, and playing time and uniforms, and there's only one goalie that plays, and my kid's the goalie, and Freeport's got a good goalie, and at that time, they were taking the full enrollments. It would have bumped Yarmouth to Class A. They would lose all of their traditional games and rivalries and have a whole new schedule. Since that time, we have found another partner. And they have a new AD. This is his second year. And Chevrolet was on the verge of not having a team, just like South Portland did. So Chevrolet was out looking about, and conversation after conversation, Yarmouth and Chevrolet had a co-op team last year with both schools having about 18 kids. Yarmouth will be meeting with Chevrolet here shortly to decide if that went well and to pursue it, and how many each of the schools have going forward in the next 2-year cycle.
Because, I mean, if we're talking geographically, would there be any chance for a trade for, Chevrolet to go to South Portland and Freeport to go to Yarmouth?
That has been mentioned.
Uh-huh.
But there's
So
a lot
all of these possibilities, are any of the, I mean, is there realistically an option that this could happen this year? I mean, or is there literally a deadline next week that has to be signed?
We have to make applications 6 months before the start of the season, which I'm not, maybe it's 3 months, 3 months.
Maddie?
It strikes me that this whole process is a little crazy. Coaches talking to coaches, parents being surveyed, and I'm just wondering if there's any chance the MPA might ever consider brokering this whole process in one meeting, kind of like what Jeremy was just saying, where everybody sort of puts forward their regional desires, the kids' driving time, how many players they have in a coming year. Just trying to think out of the box.
The MPA wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. They don't even want to touch Western Maine Conference wanting to play games with the SMAA or the KVAC. They're just not going to get into that.
So the way the motion is written, it says to be determined. So does that give you flexibility to find something closer if you can before the 3-month deadline? Or?
Possibly.
I mean, because it sounds like pretty clear the parents would like a closer option. I mean,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, it's not even just South Portland, it's Bedford. I mean, they're practicing in
A
Bedford.
majority of the parents would. There
Yeah,
certainly are some that want to stay
yes,
with
that's true.
Portland, so.
Okay.
Again, could I just throw one more thing that's happened in the past that I'd be curious if this could be looked into too, is that a couple years ago, Gorham and Brunswick had their own varsities, but actually combined for their JVs.
Right, that happened this last year too. So,
Not to complicate
Just to keep it
things.
really interesting.
yeah, so Brunswick and Gorham didn't have enough kids to have a complete JV team, so they co-opt JV. Because the Maine Principals Association doesn't govern anything below varsity, there really is no cooperative agreement. The two schools decided, let's go ahead and do it. They had no practices. They just got together and played games.
Interesting. Molly?
So I'm in favor of voting for the slate with the TBD, with the understanding that maybe there will be some more research to see if anyone who's closer will actually invite us to participate with the boys hockey, including Brunswick, if they will reconsider. But I also wanted to point out that we are meeting on the 24th of August, and that is well before the 3-month deadline. So if you needed a vote with a specific partner, we could vote then too. But I like the TBD for now because it allows flexibility.
Yeah, I think if we vote on that, then wherever he, leaves it to their discretion. I mean, I can't imagine the parents would rather hold off and not play a year in hopes that they find someone for year 2. I mean, that seems risky, and you're at risk of losing 2 years of the sport. And when your kid's only playing 4, as we've all learned this year, a year out is hard. So
I might add that while we only had 7 skaters involved in the co-op, there was, I want to say 12 high school boys who did skate and play on an ice hockey team. They just chose not to play in South Portland on the co-op and played on their club, youth, bantam, whatever the name of those club youth hockeys are.
I thought what we heard from Christine was that after they're freshmen, they can't do that. Is that not true?
I don't know. Jeremy might.
It depends, because some 9th graders are still a what they call a bantam, a U16, which plays into it to an extent, and then there are some higher level clubs available. But if you're
for the high school
if
kid.
you're a run of the mill JV player, there's probably not going to be a spot on those higher level clubs.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions? So the way this is written is that it leaves it, for you to try and find the best alternative. Perfect. Everybody good to go on that? Ready to vote? We got a motion, right? Yeah, you did. Okay, perfect. Love it. Thank you. All right, then all those in favor? None opposed. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Good luck courting. Okay, organizational business. All right, so this is where we elect a chair and a vice chair, and we work on our committees. For this, we would accept nominations for chair and or vice chair, and typically vote on them separately. I told Jen if nobody wanted either of these, we're just going to elect her, and that's what you get for not being here on organizational day. Beth.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
Oh,
Or nomination.
Oh, yes. I would like to nominate you for board chair. If you'll accept it.
Did you mean Jen?
If she accepts.
Any other nominations? Candy?
Are we only doing one role at a time?
Typically. Nobody's, okay. Okay, so is there a motion for consideration and approval to appoint a chair Am I supposed to insert name here? Okay, my name here. Michelle Richardson for the RSU number 5 Board of Directors to take effect on July 1st. So I'm taking off from now until then. Well, I think you have to do nominations, right? And that, because you can nominate more than one person? Okay. But yes, I think she did. We could say she did. Was that your motion? Okay.
Fine with that, yeah.
And I think Candy was a second. All those in favor? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You're stuck with me for another year, Becky.
I'm happy to be stuck with you.
All right, so.
Lindsay for a little background music.
Yeah, right? Okay, so Vice Chair, Maddie.
I nominate Beth Bunsen.
Do we have a second? Angela, thank you. Beth, I know you and I chatted about it, but.
What's the, I'm sorry.
Are
Yes,
you-
I'll accept, yeah.
Okay. Any other, Valley?
And I would like to nominate Susanna, and I want to thank Maura for having served for this last year. And there are only nominations on the floor because she is too busy to do it again. But thank you.
Yeah. Yes, you did a fantastic job. All right, so see, here's where I need help, Maura. What do we do if we have 2 nominations to do?
Well, I guess first we should find out if Susanna
That's true.
accepts.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I think we would open the floor for discussion about the.
Okay, do you guys have a platform? Yeah, it's very rare that we have more than one person. So what if there's no discussion?
So in the past, when we had more than one candidate who accepts the nomination, we do secret vote.
Is that how we do it? I couldn't even remember.
Yeah, we have little pieces of paper and we just write the name and then somebody counts.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Do we need a second for a nomination?
Yes.
Do we
So-
have a second for Susanna's nomination?
Well, would we wait until
After the vote?
after
Right, because is the motion technically for, because
her-
you just need
her-
one person to nominate, right?
I believe so.
And then whoever would be the winner of the vote would be who we'd put on the motion
I believe
with a
so.
second.
I believe so, yeah.
Fancy pieces of paper. I stole the top of your thing. That's right. I've got this side.
I know before. Or vice chair.
I know. So hot.
I just wanted to say I think we'd be lucky to have either one of you, and I'm appreciative that you're both
Yes,
willing.
both willing to do it, for sure.
do it. So thank you, both of you.
Yes. Okay. All right. So do I have a motion for consideration approval to appoint Beth Munson as the vice chair for the RSU number 5 Board of Directors? Oh, you already wrote it down? Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll let Susanna make the motion. Maddie can be the second. I know. Okay. Discussion?
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you both.
Yes, thank you both for the willingness. And hopefully this willingness carries on when we move into committees, just saying. Okay, all those in favor? Great, none opposed. Welcome, Beth. All right. All right, so here is the, talk about horse trading and bartering. Here's our committee discussion. For next year, and Becky and I talked about whether we should do it now or whether we should do it in August when Jill joins us, but we thought we would at least start the work now, and then we could make minor tweaks or adjustments once Jill joins us based on their interests, needs, wants, etc. So, so typically what we'll do here is in your packet is Ginny's been kind enough to give us the listing of the different committees, and then on the sheets on your agenda is who is currently on them. So typically if somebody's interested in switching or getting off or getting on, this would be their opportunity to raise their hand and make those requests. Any interest in changing? Opting in, opting out? The one I want to point out is Region 10 is the one that we should really try and find someone to do. Jen had stepped up sort of midway through the year, right before the budget, into that one because we had some other moving parts. Her agreement was to do it through this year. So hopefully we have someone who's willing to take that one.
So we know Jen is not willing to do it again.
I think her request was to do it for this year. If we have absolutely no one, then we can revisit it with her. But what the request she mentioned to me was that she would prefer to have someone else take that next year. And that was what we told her we would do when she agreed to take it this year. Do you want to give it a plug, Maura? Because you did it for a little bit.
I saw Candy raising her hand. I don't
Oh,
know if
yes,
she had
Candy. You'd be doing Region 10? Perfect.
Yeah, and I mean, if I could put a plug, I do think it's a very interesting committee or board to serve on, and an important one. They're doing a lot of strategic planning right now for the future of the school. So thank you, Candy.
And I think they can use Candy's communication skills over there. Her communication mantra, I think, should be well received over there. And then the other one that we have, and I don't know if anybody's talked to Karen about whether her willingness to stay on as the community member or not. Right. So, yeah, so then we'll beg and plead with community members. Anybody else interested in, because historically we've had 2 board members on this board. The last couple of years we've had a tough time getting someone to take that, so we've had Karen, who is a former board member, Nick currently a community member, agreed to step in and take that which is wonderful, and she's done a great job, and we appreciate her efforts. But if we had board members who wanted it, were interested in it, given, it's probably the most high profile we've ever had conversations about Region 10 this year. So I don't know if it piqued anybody's interest enough to take that one on. And that's true. We will have a new panel rep who may be all about Region 10. We don't know. Okay. Any other changes? Susanna, what are you thinking?
That was about the any other changes, not about that. I need to offload some. I've been on 6 over this past year. I'm currently technically on 5, and one of those being the reopening that was just for last summer. But I mean, doing negotiations, strategic communications, I am dead. I've had weeks this spring that I'm not getting through. So I said with negotiations I could do it through June, and I can't continue doing what I'm doing.
I'm going to give you a hint here, Susanna.
What?
I'm going to give you a hint. Stay on negotiations right now because there's nothing to do.
I know. I understand that, and I had a little pep talk from somebody about that. But I think, and I don't need to do this now. This can be something that we do at the retreat if we're going to look at sort of balance of everybody. But I cannot do next year what I've been doing this year, and so I don't care really if that's a discussion for now or if that's a discussion when Jill joins the board and when we sort of look over balances. And a couple of the ones that I'm on are on here, but there's also the DEI, the sustainability that aren't necessarily required. So I'm happy to look at balances in different ways, but I can't be on 6 next year.
Sure. No, that's understandable.
Is there, I guess from my perspective, if there's one you're wanting to drop, we should just drop it tonight. I guess
I agree.
Is my recommendation, or 2, or whatever you're thinking, Susanna.
I'm not particularly bothered. I think I think the DEI is the one that I really want to stay on, and beyond that, I'm quite flexible. I understand negotiations is less of a movement going forward, so I'm, and I think learning a little bit more about what that's going to be going forward. I think for me, it's just at the moment more of the balance rather than specifically what I'm doing.
It's not on there. It's neither of them are. Sustainability isn't either, because I think technically they're ad hoc committees, so they don't get voted on every year. It's like the high school renovation. Like once you're on it for life, I think. Yes.
Sustainability is on here, but and I see equity too.
Well, see, they're on this because this is this is more to see where people are spreading their time.
Oh, I see. But not on here.
But on the ones we actually vote on an annual basis on the agenda, they're not on there.
Okay. And I just wanted to add, I think, I'm not going to be vice chair anymore, so I am happy to pick up some spots or a spot from committees that Susanna is on. I think that's only fair in terms of balance. So.
So I guess I would say if somebody has something they'd like to get rid of or get onto, then let's just, what are those? What would you like to take off your plate, Susanna? I mean, for yours, negotiations is probably pretty quiet next year. So the more heavy lifts you have on yours are strategic communications, equity, and sustainability. So if you're telling me that equity is an important one for you right now and you want to keep that one, then maybe strategic communications is one that you would.
Yeah, I think if I could stay with the equity and maybe the negotiations, if that's gonna be lighter, and then drop this is strategic communications. And I know Maura said with the sustainability, she might be interested in taking that on, and I don't want to put more in that. That's something that I'll probably, that's a fairly light lift at the moment, but I don't know. I think, sorry.
So strategic communications is what we're thinking for you?
I think so.
Okay. Is that Maddie?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
If we're horse trading and you want to, and anyone else would prefer to do that and give me a different one, I'm totally fine with that too. I don't have any real preference. I think it's nice to kind of rotate and be on different ones. So I'll take anything.
I was just going to throw my hat in the ring, depending on when meeting times are, potentially for strategic communications and dropout. That's not one of Susanna's, but Angela's leaving.
Okay. So do you have one that you want to drop from you?
No, because, I mean, stipend is not going to be such a heavy lift, right, Becky? Right?
She's chuckling. I don't know.
I know. And SCL,
Yeah, that one is. What about policy?
no, I'm not dropping policy. I love policy.
Okay.
I know, I'm
You
weird
can't
like that.
have it. Okay. Okay. So who said they wanted to drop out? Okay, that would be a lot for you, Maddie. If we added, because right now you have 4. I mean, FPAC isn't a huge one. But if we added strategic communications and dropout, I think that would be.
No, I wouldn't want to take both. I would
Yeah.
take,
Okay.
depending on when they meet, I would take either of those.
Okay. I think strategic communications is what, Friday mornings?
Yes, it's usually Friday morning.
I don't know when strategic communications is, but I can tell you when the dropout meeting is.
Yep.
It's like maybe the first or last Tuesday of every month about, and it's 2:45 to 4:15.
Yeah, you guys aren't meeting like weekly.
No, it's about 3 to 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's usually Friday mornings, and that's also a tough time for me, which is another reason I'm
Okay.
interested in that.
So we'll pull that one off for you. Lindsay?
I was just gonna say I'd throw my hat in the ring for Boost, not Dropout.
The new name, yes.
That's right. We haven't officially changed it yet, but it is.
I retract
that's
that
what we're-
statement.
yeah.
I would like to throw my hat in the ring for the Dropout Prevention Committee if it's necessary.
Okay. Trying to see how we can level these out here.
I just want to say that I would step away from the dropout prevention if other people really wanted to come onto it, because it's such an amazing committee to watch work, and I really enjoy it for the highs and the lows. You have a lot of sad things and you have a lot of really happy things that happen, and it's just impressive to watch these people work and pull the kids through. But I would step away if 2 other people really wanted to have that. So
Okay. And that was one that we are only required to have 1, but we have 2. So if Lindsay and Maddie wanted that one, and Mara wanted strategic communications.
You can hear me.
Yeah.
You can hear me now. I didn't know if Maddie wanted strategic communications. I don't need to. I'm open. I'm wide open. So, yeah.
You say you're wide open, but I'm looking at your list. It's getting long.
It's not, 3 things on there barely meet.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's right, because stipends is going to be, I have it in red, but it's not really red anymore, right? It's required is why it's red, so, okay.
So Maddie, what is the Student-Centered Learning Committee?
It's the former PEPG, isn't it? No?
Proficiency.
Proficiency. It's another P something.
PBE.
PBE, yeah. I was like, it was a P something.
When does that one meet?
Oh, I was going to say,
Maybe
yeah,
next year.
I didn't think it met at all, so I didn't know what the status was going forward.
We paused that work because of the strategic plan, so that'll be, but we probably meet like 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay, so this one is going to go down. All right. So let me just go through and see where we are. So Beth, we're going to pull Boost dropout off of yours. You're interested in staying on finance. And then SCL, we're not sure the status of that, but it's not a huge lift.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, yeah.
And then we'll add the vice chair. So we're going to pull the dropout off and add vice chair. So Candy, you have support negotiations, but we shouldn't have any this year. Strategic communications, policy, and Region 10. So that's a lot. Are you sure? right. Jen has stipends, negotiations. She said she definitely wasn't giving up negotiations because she wants her off year. And then we'll move Region 10 from Jen to Candy. And then, so Jen probably this year, once we go through all these, there might be some smaller ones that she could pick up. Okay. And then Jeremy, finance, you're still good?
Yep.
Okay. Safety?
Safety, which didn't meet last year for obvious reasons, but being
for the safety of us all.
For the safety of the safety. Yeah. And community programs, if anybody would like to run with that, yeah, I'm happy to stay on it. It's one that needs some boost of energy, but I'm not sure where that comes from. It's a tricky one to navigate.
I'd be interested in that one. I was actually going to ask if I could join you, Jeremy, but I'm also happy to take it over from you if you want. Either way.
Peter's wonderful to work with, so it's all yours.
Okay, so we'll move community programs from Jeremy to Maura. So Angela, we have you on dropout now, but we'll just leave that alone, and then we'll figure it out when Jill gets here.
Okay.
Unless you know Jill and you know what she'd like, we'll just sign her up now.
I don't.
Okay.
So,
Which one? I haven't gotten to them yet. We're getting there. I'm going across the line. Well, I was talking about hers, right? So it's going to pull her off.
Michelle?
Yes.
I'm going to retract from Boost because I'm realizing Ella's a senior next year, and if that does meet every month, that's a bit much for me. So I would keep my hat in the ring for strategic communications.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Okay, Susanna, we'll leave negotiations, but you shouldn't have to do anything next year. We're going to pull strategic communications, but we'll leave equity, sustainability, and the cable board. It's my favorite committee ever.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope that board meets at some point. So
Never.
I feel like I do something.
Nope.
You know, just
I think we just have to do it because we get funds
should
from
I just make
some...
my badge for myself so that I feel official? Awesome.
You could be the chair of that committee if you want.
Oh, yay. Title. Thank you.
All right, so Lindsay, I have you support negotiations. You shouldn't have to do anything next year because it's not up until the following year, but we always have people on those just in case some, contract question comes up. Policy, equity, and boost. That works for you? Okay. All right, so Maddie, I have you as stipend, policy, SCL, FPAC, and strategic communications. All right. Maura, I have you as safety and community programs. Anything else? Did I miss any?
Nope. I mean, we don't have it on here, but I do the MSBA board. But
oh yes,
that's not one.
That's true. If we're looking at how people are investing their time, that's a big one. So we don't want to forget about that one. Okay, and then I will stay for finance, assuming Candy or Jen doesn't want it.
No.
She's looking at me like, "What are you, insane?" Okay, and I'll stay on negotiations and chair. So Vali, I have you for strategic communications, wellness, and sustainability. Those all still work? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll make these changes and make sure we haven't left any committee completely high and dry or any other committee so overloaded that it's not helpful. Yeah.
You're going to contact Karen Van Ostren?
Yes.
We'll see if she's still...
Yep. So we might, what? Yeah, I was going to say we'll probably meet with Jill first and see if it's something that she's interested in. And if she is, then we would probably let her pick that up. It's a big lift if I don't know her background, if she's been on a board before, but if you haven't been on a school board before, doing 2 school boards at once might be a big lift out of the gate. So yeah, we'll probably be chatting with Karen to make sure she's if she's still willing. And if not, then we'll go dialing for dollars for other friends that we know that might be interested in the Region 10 board. Or we might be back talking about it in August again. So, so good. I think this is a good start, and we'll just clean this up and make sure that we've got everything the way we want it. And so based on what we just read through, do we have a motion for consideration and approval to add, delete, and consolidate the committees to make the annual appointments? Bali, Angela, thank you. All those in favor? Great. I should have put the barring any errors or omissions one, because there might have been something. All right, perfect. Thank you, guys. I think I got it here. I think between the two of us, we'll probably get it squared away. Yes, exactly. Everybody will know in August. All right, so personnel. Oh, this also included the attorney and the physician on there. So none of us are qualified for either of those positions, so we can't have those.
Okay.
You want the motion first?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ, do you want to do them together or separate? There's only two, right? Because there's 2 math teachers at Freeport High School, right? Okay. To employ 2 math teachers at Freeport High School for the 2021-2022 school year. Maddie and Mara, thank you.
Okay. I'm thrilled to recommend Tara Cloutier as a math teacher at Freeport High School. She comes to us with a bachelor's from Keene State College. She has 6 years of experience, most recently working in Bedford, New Hampshire. Her reference states, innovation is a key part of what Tara does in the classroom. She's a strong educator. A strong educator is someone who can not only present the content in a meaningful, engaging manner, but also someone who can connect with the students and develop a rapport of mutual respect while also establishing expectations for student behavior. The students find her approachable, knowledgeable, and fair. We are excited to welcome Tara to FHS. The second math teacher that I'm recommending is Melissa McGilkin as a math teacher. She comes to us with a bachelor's from the University of Rhode Island. She also has 6 years of experience, most recently working at the Community Regional Charter School in Skowhegan. Her references state that Melissa has an extensive knowledge of mathematics. She easily builds relationships with other practitioners and students and has a way of helping people reach their fullest potential. Her knowledge of complex reasoning skills and habits of mind ensures that the student's learning will be rigorous. She is skilled at creating units that bring together multiple learning pathways that capture the interest and harness the passions of her learners. We are also excited to welcome Melissa to Freeport High School.
All right, any questions on our 2 math teachers? All right, all those in favor? None opposed, great. All right, so we are back to public comment. I don't know if we have anyone on Zoom.
We do not.
We do not. And I think we've driven everyone out of the cafeteria, other than the people we make stay. So I think we're good for public comment. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval to enter into executive session as outlined in 1 MRSA section 4056A for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's evaluation? Lindsay and Beth, thank you. All those in favor? Great, none opposed. 8:33. And before anybody wanders off for the board, while they pack up, Rick needs us all to sign the warrants over here to send to the towns.